Hey, I'm Mac. Welcome back to my channel. Allow me to nerd out for a second. Just humor me, okay? Water is a very strange substance. It's easy to forget about that fact since it's so commonplace and essential to us, but it's very weird. First of all, it expands when it freezes, which is about as close to being a fucking troll as an inanimate chemical substance can get. Like, to the point that it's kind of ridiculous when you stop and consider the enormous impact of this bizarre property of water on the world. Like, it created Arches National Park by seeping into the sandstone and then breaking it apart when it froze. And also when it causes that booming noise you hear from the freezer, and then realize that once again, you have forgotten about the soda you put in there because you weren't patient enough to wait for it to cool in the fridge, or smart enough to simply pour it into a glass of ice, or realistic enough to realize that there was exactly a 0% chance you were going to remember to take it out 30 minutes later. Second, nothing has a higher heat capacity than water, other than a couple extremely rare and unstable substances like completely anhydrous ammonia, meaning it takes more energy to raise the temperature of water than any other substance. This is why the ocean has such an intense moderating effect on climate and is a big driver of weather patterns. Land heats up much more quickly than water does, and whenever you have uneven temperatures, you're going to have active weather. Water, once it's heated up though, also cools down a lot more slowly than land, which leads to the lake effect snow happening off the Great Lakes in the Midwest and the Great Salt Lake here in Utah, when the relatively warm water causes the air blowing over it to warm and rise. And when air rises, it cools, and that causes water vapor to condense, because clouds are not water vapor, they're droplets of liquid water or ice crystals. There's also the absurd amounts of energy required for water to change phases. It takes a comparatively large amount of energy for water to change from a liquid to a gas. This is why it feels so cold when you get out of the shower, and it's also the principle that makes sweating super effective, unless you live in a humid hellscape like the South. And of course, the most important thing about water, at least being from the biased perspective of a human, is that we are 50 to 60% water by weight. That's crazy when you think about it. Like, I weigh 140 pounds, which is 64 kilograms for those of you in countries that use the metric system, or 10 stone for those of you in countries that lie about using the metric system. So that's like 80 pounds of water, or 36 kilograms, or 5 stone, 10 pounds. That's so much water. So given the enormous amount of water making up our physical beings, it is understandable to be very concerned about the quality of water that we drink. After all, water is an excellent solvent and can just as easily dissolve harmful substances as well as harmless ones. Not to mention frequently harboring potentially harmful bacteria that find water just as necessary for life as we do. This tendency to be skeptical of our water has proven to be quite the cash cow for purveyors of water filtration devices and bottled water. Despite the United States having one of the safest overall networks of local water supplies in the world, with exceptions such as the Flint crisis being caught via testing and being extremely rare. If you're concerned about the quality of your tap water, then I would highly encourage you to seek out the report from your water authority, which is required by the EPA, and also to have your water from your tap tested so that you'll actually know which contaminants, if any, are present before you shell out stupid money on a Brita filter that doesn't filter that contaminant, but you think it tastes better, even though that's obviously because the Brita pitcher causes you to chill it in the fridge versus the room temperature of the tap. And I never say anything, even though it kind of really bothers me to see you fall for it when I know that you're smarter than this, because I don't want it to become like a whole thing. So let's just go to your bedroom already. Additionally, municipal water supplies are required to be tested by the EPA and have stringent quality standards. Bottled water is not tested by any regulatory organization and typically costs about 500 to 1,000 times more than tap water. So if you insist on drinking bottled water, you should make sure it is actually 500 to 1,000 times cleaner or tastier. Or stop being a paranoid baby because a newsflash, bottled water is tap water. And stop buying things that come in plastic bottles, please. Unlike aluminum and glass, plastic is not recyclable except in the imaginations and aspirations of marketers. Lately, it seems it's not enough to have just clean water, though. If you thought it was healthy to drink clean drinking water, then you have another think coming, you absolute foolish knave. You have no doubt seen the proliferation of alkaline water among bottled water brands, as if bottled water weren't already enough of a scam in the first place. It's not enough to be scammed by Smart Water's literal distilled water with some calcium and magnesium chloride and potassium bicarbonate added. No. You need alkaline Smart Water. That way, when your hundreds of single-use plastic bottles are picked through hundreds of years from now, whoever encounters them will know that you were way smarter than everyone else for drinking alkaline water. Listen, baby girl, you can drink all the alkaline water you want, but you will never live longer than the plastic bottles you drank it out of and threw away. And when you're dead, they will be still alive. But what exactly does alkaline even mean? Alkaline is commonly used to mean basic as opposed to acidic. There's a more technical chemistry definition, but for the purposes of this discussion, alkaline means basic. Bases, for the most part, have the following characteristics. They have a pH greater than 7 when they are in a solution of water. pH, by the way, ranges from usually 0 to 14, although there are things like perchloric acid and other super acids that have pHs below 0. And and there are super bases as well, not just the Nicki Minaj kind, but also kinds that, like, there's a substance called proton sponge, for example, that is a super base, which would have a pH greater than 14. But 7 is considered to be, that's what is set as the neutral point of the pH scale, where it's neither acidic nor basic. So bases all have pHs greater than 7 when you dissolve them in water. They react violently with acids. Think of the reaction between baking soda, which is a weak base, and vinegar, which is a weak acid. They tend to taste very bitter. Strong bases are caustic, which means they corrode organic tissue. They tend to have a slippery, soapy feeling on the skin due to a process called saponification, which is when a base like lye reacts with oil and fatty acids to produce what we commonly refer to as soap. Soap is useful because one end of it is charged and then the other end of it is a lipid from the fatty acid. So you have one end that will dissolve in water and another end that will dissolve in oil, which makes it easier to wash off grime and dirt with water that wouldn't normally mix in with water. Acids, on the other hand, have these properties. They have a pH less than 7 when they're in a water solution. They react violently with bases. They typically taste sour, but not bitter, like citric acid in citrus, acetic acid in vinegar, or vitamin C. There's nothing inherently bad about a substance being either an acid or a base. Harmfulness is going to be determined by the specific attributes of the substance, where it is, and the concentration of it. Your stomach is full of hydrochloric acid and it has a pH of about 2. And for the most part, this is a good thing because it is very helpful in digesting food. When everything's working the way that it's supposed to, your stomach has a lining to protect it from this strong acid. However, it can become harmful when you have an issue like acid reflux, when that acid gets into unprotected organs like the esophagus, or when your stomach lining is disrupted, which can lead to peptic ulcer. The point is, it's very simplistic to say something is bad or harmful simply based on whether it's an acid or a base. Now, if you're a hater who fails at network marketing and doesn't want to live their best life, you might now be thinking, If your stomach has a pH of 2 due to the hydrochloric acid in it, and the hole in your face leads into your stomach, wouldn't that mean that alkaline water is going to be immediately neutralized when it encounters that hydrochloric acid? That's a great question. It's also why you're a fucking hater. Generally, your blood and almost all of your tissues are going to be maintained at a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. When it exceeds 7.45, this is a medical condition called alkalemia. Symptoms could include convulsions, palpitations, tetany, and spasms. It can be caused by hyperventilation, such as when someone from sea level visits Colorado or Salt Lake City, resulting in them breathing excessively, which would cause reduced CO2 in the blood. When CO2 dissolves in water, it creates carbonic acid, which is a weak acid. This is why seltzer or sparkling water is almost always somewhat acidic. Alkalemia can also be caused by metabolic factors such as excessive consumption of antacids or vomiting resulting in loss of hydrochloric acid from the stomach. It could be caused by diarrhea. But if your kidneys are functioning properly, generally any of those things would be corrected rather quickly and easily. When it drops below 7.35, that's acidemia. The typical cause of this is either diabetes, kidney failure, or it could be respiratory problems. The point I'm trying to make is that the body maintains its pH within a rather tight window, just 1/10 on the pH scale, and it's very good at it under most circumstances. So neutralizing some alkaline water within like seconds is not a problem for it. But that sure doesn't stop some people from trying to convince us otherwise. Let me introduce you to Kangen water, the cultiest, most pseudoscientific, morally bankrupt flim-flam that the MLM industry has cursed the world with yet. Kangen water sells a line of machines that cost thousands of dollars to change your shit-tastic clean drinking water into what is essentially described as a magic potion and cure-all. Kangen comes from the Japanese word for fucking scammers. Just kidding, it means origin, because we need to go back to our origins and use a water electrolysis machine to make our water alkaline, just like our ancestors used to. Personally, I don't need this machine because my tap water here in Draper, Utah has a pH out of the faucet of anywhere between 8 and 9 and is some of the hardest water you will find from a municipal system, which in terms of drinking it is not a bad thing. Usually minerals like calcium and magnesium are great for drinking water. They just suck for everything else because they aren't very soluble. Anyway, it doesn't matter because the pH of it drops to like 5 once I've injected CO2 into it via my modded SodaStream. Yeah, sorry. As an aside, I have to mention that you can get an adapter for a SodaStream to hook up a CO2 cylinder. I bought a 5-pound cylinder and it cost me less than $15 to get it filled at a home brewing supply store every time. It's awesome. That's like 5.5 SodaStream canisters. It works nicely for me because I put it in my pantry, so it's not out on the counter being ugly, but I just thought I would mention that and maybe save you some money. You'll take my sparkling water away from me when you grab it out of my cold, dead, acidotic fingers. Oh, grrr. Now, surely the machine must be pretty sophisticated and totally worth the thousands of dollars they're charging for it if they're doing something as complicated sounding as electrolysis of water, right? Electrolysis of water, meaning splitting H2O into H2 and O2, oxygen and hydrogen usually roll in pairs by themselves, is really fucking easy. Here, I have a 9-volt battery like any good electric guitarist, 2 pencils, and a connector for the battery. Observe the ends of the pencils. That's oxygen on the pencil that shows fewer bubbles, and the pencil with more bubbles is hydrogen because it's H2O. So there's twice as much hydrogen as oxygen. See, it's very easy. I literally did that with a couple items in my apartment. The way that this whole process works is the water around one of the electrodes becomes acidic and the water around the other one becomes alkaline. So then you drink the alkaline water, and it is immediately neutralized by the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, with literally zero effect on the overall pH of your body, because if it did have an effect, that would be what the haters like me call a medical emergency. But you know what? Enough with that silly factual information and logic. Let's hear some truth bombs from the Kangen water folks, okay? Let's go! Holy shit, was that my introduction? Jesus, God almighty. Wow.
This really upset me when I figured this out because I love coconut water and I thought it was super good for me. So if you think that...
Why did you think that? I mean, I wouldn't say it's bad for you, but I mean, it's just coconut water.
That too, watch this and let me know what you think after. This right here is an ORP meter, which stands for oxidation reduction potential. Read it backwards, it makes a little bit more sense, the potential to reduce oxidation. So
it's not what it means though. Like, oxidation means losing electrons basically, and you know, reducing means that something gains electrons. That's all it means. It just means whether it acts as an oxidizing agent or as a reducing agent. Usually you are looking for something that has a lot more oxidation potential if you're testing water, because if something is oxidizing, then that is inhibiting microbial growth and stuff like that. Just saying.
So basically what it's going to do is measure antioxidants in a liquid, and let's...
No, it's not. So antioxidants are not, that's not talking about the same thing as when you're talking about oxidation in the terms of like oxidation reduction reactions. So when we're talking about antioxidants, antioxidants are compounds that that reduce the levels of free radicals in a substance. That free radicals have an unpaired electron, which basically makes them extremely reactive. And antioxidants are good at neutralizing those. It's a different concept from this. Because here's the thing, it's kind of confusing, but in chemistry, there's a type of reaction called a redox reaction, where one compound is considered to be reduced and the other one is oxidized. And it has a specific meaning, like it's a term of art. She's not thinking about this the same way, because something that is causing less oxidation to happen, that is not an antioxidant. An antioxidant is something completely different. An antioxidant is something that neutralizes free radicals. I don't know how else to explain it. They're completely different concepts.
See how much coconut water has. So let's pour the coconut water glass and see how many antioxidants are in it. I used to grab this stuff after workout classes, yoga classes, thinking it was replenishing me, but just watch this.
So those probes are super, super fragile. Like they're very, very sensitive little things, and so I don't know if I would whip it around in that glass the way that you're doing it, but also you're not finding out anything about antioxidants in this water. That's not what this test represents at all. It's measuring oxidation reduction, like it's measuring the redox potential. So if it's negative, then it has more reduction potential. If it's positive, it has more oxidation potential. That's all it means.
Remember right here, if it's positive, that means it's aging you.
No.
There's no antioxidants in there. if we use the pH drops right here, if you go back to my last video, I show you the pH scale and what the colors of that look like. This is super acidic, not hydrating you at all. Now, if we
That's a load of bullshit. It is it is not accurate to say it's not hydrating you at all. The acidity or basicity of a substance has nothing to do with whether it hydrates you or not. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. That is completely false. The acidity or basicity of a substance has zero effect on how hydrating it is. None whatsoever. That's just a fact. Jesus Christ. She's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's talking about at all. She thinks that this is testing for antioxidants. No, it's not. And even if it were, the antioxidants do not have the effect of making you age less or whatever. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Wow.
take my lovely living water here, you can see the hydrogen.
Living water? What, like Jesus?
And we measure the antioxidants.
You're not testing for antioxidants.
We have a negative number, which means it has a surplus of antioxidants. Negative 758.
Yeah, because you have a bunch of negatively charged ions in there because it's basic. Because that has the hydroxide end of the reaction that is done in your little Kangen water machine. That's how it works. You have a bunch of negatively charged ions in there. So all of those ions have extra electrons, but I might add here, the electrons are in pairs, which means they're not free radicals, okay? Nor are these antioxidants. It's what she's finding the result of here is the hydroxide ions in there that are the reason that it is a basic solution. And hydroxide is not an antioxidant. It's just not. So all you're measuring here is the potential the term is the redox potential. That's what it's usually called. And when it's higher in the positive direction, that means that the solution is more likely to gain electrons in a reaction. So if something reacts to it, it's more likely to gain electrons. It has a lot of potential to oxidize something. Because when something is oxidized, it loses electrons and it behaves as a reducing agent. When something gains electrons, that's called being reduced and acting as an oxidizing agent. So a solution that is more positive is more likely to gain electrons, which means it will be reduced and it will act as an oxidizing agent. And something that has a more negative potential is likely to lose electrons, be oxidized, and act as a reducing agent. So something that is more reducing will have a more negative value, and something that is more oxidizing will have a more positive value. Usually, when we're talking about water quality, actually, they usually look at this value as you want it to be at least a minimum amount of a positive value, because a solution that is more oxidizing is going to be is going to have more of an impact on microbial contamination. So if something is more strongly oxidizing, it kills more microbes, which is a good thing. I don't know. She doesn't understand the test that she's doing. She doesn't understand it at all. You know, it's negative because there's so much hydroxide in there. It's not super important to understand this other than the fact that, like, she doesn't know what she's talking about at all. Like, she's gotten so many things wrong here.
Comparing the pH of it. Look at that. This is alkaline right here. This is acidic. This is aging you. Now you know the truth about coconut water. Leave a comment and tell me what to test next.
So it's not aging you, and that doesn't mean that it has antioxidants in it, okay? I don't know how else to drive that home, that that has nothing to do with antioxidants, but it doesn't. Just trust me, it doesn't.
Something crazy. Okay, so this is sesame oil, toasted sesame oil that I got from Trader Joe's. I'm just gonna pour a little bit in each cup. So we all know that oil and water don't mix, right? Well, this is tap water. Duh, we all knew that. But what if you mix my water? I'll show you right here. Just water. Just kidding. Breaks down oil.
Okay, I don't know what the pH that she's getting out of this Kangen water is, but so do you remember what I said about saponification? That's what is occurring here, is that solution is so strongly basic that it is reacting with the oils to produce soap. That's what we're seeing here. And once that happens, it's soluble in water, so it's gonna mix. I mean, yeah, so oil and water don't mix, but they do if you make soap out of them with a really strong base. I mean, yeah, you could also mix lye in with it and that would happen too. And also, like, how fucking high is the pH of that saponified, and it saponified that quickly? Usually saponification is fairly slow. So that has to be a very high pH.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So the reason my water was able to break down the super fatty oil is because it's a super high pH of 11.5.
Please don't drink something that is an 11.5 pH. That's not healthy. That can, like, damage tissues and stuff. That's not good. And yeah, okay, that's exactly what I expected, is that it has a pH of 11.5 and it is turning the oil into soap. Usually you don't eat soap, but okay. This is not exactly groundbreaking shit, lady.
That's why when so many people switch to my water, they end up losing weight. If you'd like to try,
they end up losing weight because they're eating soap and probably throwing it up.
my water, follow me and send me a message.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Do you drink Evian? I used to drink this stuff and think I was...
No.
You know what, Evian? You should be really embarrassed because your parents named you after bottled water.
So fancy.
Okay. I don't know why you thought that. It's water in a plastic bottle.
So I was very mad when I found out about this.
Oh boy, what's it gonna be?
So I'm gonna measure with this ORP meter whether this liquid is oxidizing, so aging, which means it'll have a positive.
Okay. Yes, aging is the result of oxidation, but it's not because your water is oxidizing you. It's because, here's the thing. There's this really strong oxidizing agent that it's actually like, it's kind of in the air. It's like over a fifth of the air is this really, really strong oxidizing agent. It's called oxygen. Yeah. So, you know, it's not the fact that your water is oxidizing and aging you. It's the fact that you have to breathe in this really, really, really strong oxidizing agent to live. It's it's how we have energy to do anything, but it's also slowly killing you. Thanks, oxygen. But yeah, tell me about how it's the water that's oxidizing you. Like, has that never occurred to her that like, what about this oxygen that I'm breathing in? I wonder if that's oxidizing at all. I guess her next thing is going to be to stop breathing.
Positive reading, or it has antioxidants, which means it's anti-aging.
It doesn't mean it has antioxidants. If it's negative, that means it has reducing potential. That is completely different. It is a different meaning of the word oxidation. God damn it. It's confusing, sure, but it is true. It's different. You're not testing for antioxidants. You are testing for, you are finding that it has reducing potential. Okay, number one, antioxidants don't do that. And number two, that's not what you're testing for. This gives you absolutely no information on whether there are antioxidants in it or not.
For reference, this is water that you should be drinking at a negative 740 body. So Evian lands at a positive 333, which is incredibly oxidizing and not good for you.
That is not incredibly oxidizing. That's like barely oxidizing. And it's also, it's a little bit low for a bottled water. You'd kind of want it to be a little bit higher than that usually. Like most public health departments are recommending that water should be testing at a positive 650 or more, because again, the microbial thing, and bottled water is going to sit on a shelf for a while, presumably. So you'd like it to be higher. 333 is not that much.
Should be drinking at a negative 740 reading, which means that there are antioxidants in the liquid.
No, it means that the liquid has reducing potential. It is not the same as an antioxidant.
On June 27th of 2022. So it is March of 2023, and this has almost been sitting in the bottle for 1 year. Don't just beam it here from France. This comes in the slowest form of transportation, sitting in the hot sun. A lot of us leave this bottle in the car in a hot summer day and...
What? You think that they have that sitting in the hot sun? Girl, what do you think it looks like when it's coming here? It comes here probably on a container ship, because it costs basically nothing to put something on a container ship and ship it across the ocean. Like, because a boat requires like no energy input basically. But containers are sealed, they're opaque. So it's not sitting in the hot sun. It's not sitting in your car. The reason your car gets so hot on a hot day when it's in the sun is because the heat energy from the sun can pass through the glass when it comes in, and then it heats everything up, but then the heat can't escape back out through the glass. It's the whole greenhouse effect. Oh my God. Like, because the energy comes in from the sun, it passes through the glass, but then it becomes radiant heat energy, which cannot pass back out through the glass. They're not, in newsflash, they're not putting a shipment of bottled water in a container that has windows in it, sweetheart. Like, there's no glass involved. It's just gonna have most of that blocked because it's gonna be pitch black in there. She's so stupid. Also, the reason why it doesn't have any contamination is because it has a positive oxidation potential, sweetie. And beaming technology doesn't exist. Wait, you think they're gonna fly it here?
This bottle in the car in a hot summer day and we just throw it away because we think, oh, this is causing sickness. I'm not going to drink this.
I mean, I would throw it away because, well, first of all, I wouldn't have a plastic bottle of water in my car. And second of all, even if I had like an aluminum can of soda or something, I'm not going to drink it because number one, it's going to be flat. But like number two, because it's hot and it's a liquid that's not supposed to be hot. And so it's disgusting to me. Like, I'm like, whoa, like, I don't want to drink a liquid that's supposed to be cold when it's hot because it tastes nasty. That's it. Like, I don't really think that there's going to be a lot of like microbes in it or something. Like, unless it's like milk or something, it's unlikely that there's going to be a lot of like contamination in it.
This hot plastic bottle, that's actually how it was transported to.
It was transported to me in your car?
In the first place. Getting in a hot truck, to a hot boat, to a hot plane, in another hot truck, to sit outside of a hot store, to then go in the fridge for you to open it up and go, fresh Evian from the Alps. Even the name backwards is naive.
Yeah, well, Kangen backwards is Negnack, which doesn't mean anything, but it sounds stupid. How do you know that all of these transportation methods are hot? Like, I mean, they're probably kind of warm, but they're usually not that hot because there's no windows in those things. It might be like 90 degrees maybe, but it's not like a car where it gets to like 130. That stuff is sealed. Like, what are you afraid of that's going to be in there? I'm pretty sure the Evian company, which I'm going to assume is probably owned by Nestle, if I had to guess, but I'm pretty sure that they kind of don't want there to be found any microbial contamination in Evian because, you know, they'll get sued and there'll be like a PR firestorm and stuff, which is like bad for sales usually. You know, so please don't drink bottled water. At least, please don't drink it in plastic bottles. Plastic is not recyclable. Plastic is not recyclable. An aluminum can that goes into a recycle bin will be back on a store shelf within about 60 days because it is that recyclable. It is infinitely recyclable. It can do that an unlimited number of times. And it is also economical because it takes a huge amount of electricity to create new aluminum, but it doesn't take that much electricity to recycle it. So it's profitable to recycle it. And it's infinitely recyclable. So is glass. Glass is also infinitely recyclable. Plastic, when you put plastic in the recycle bin, if it gets recycled at all and doesn't end up in a landfill, a plastic bottle cannot become another plastic bottle. No. Even if it's one of those very, very rare ones that becomes a plastic bottle again, it can only do that like 1 or 2 times maximum. And it still is very costly to do that. It is not as economically advantageous as making new plastic. They're just going to make new plastic most of the time, unless they're trying to market to you. It's not like glass or aluminum that can do that an unlimited number of times profitably. It's important to drill this in. Okay, plastic is not recyclable. It's just not. It's just a way to make you feel better about buying so many plastic products. The answer to plastic is not recycling. The answer to plastic is to buy as few things that come in plastic packaging as you can.
So I got a few comments asking me to retest it, so I'll show you. All right, obviously chlorine in the water. We've established this. Hopefully I have enough time. It sits with the cauliflower. You can already see at the bottom that it's being soaked in. You can already see the difference right there. All right, we're gonna run out of time. Okay, let's try and do this as effectively as we can. Okay, there's little pieces of cauliflower, but no more chlorine. Crazy, right?
I don't know what that was supposed to mean. If I had to guess, you probably already reacted all the chlorine and then the dye soaked into the cauliflower. I don't know. I don't care. I mean, if you're that worried about the chlorine in drinking water, you can just leave it out for like 24 hours, and especially in the sun, that will also help it. And the chlorine will evaporate out of it. Well, it'll bubble out of it because it'll decompose. Especially if you put it in the sun, it'll decompose. I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you, but like the chlorine in tap water or in bottled water is there in such tiny, minute quantities that it's really below the amount that you need to worry about. It's like only a couple parts per million. I don't know what to tell you with that. It's better to have that than to have microbial contamination. And it's such a small amount that it's pretty much trivial for your body. I don't know, man.
This is why you have to read labels and not just believe smart marketing. Vitamin water, more like garbage water.
I'm with you there, but more because of the sugar.
Many troubling ingredients here if you flip on the back and read the ingredients list. Gums, phosphoric acid, which is used in detergents and fertilizers.
I hate when people use this line of reasoning when they say that, like, this thing, which is also used in da-da-da-da-da. Okay, I mean, water is also used in nuclear reactors. I don't know. I mean, salt is also used by Monsanto. You know, hydroxide ions are also used in the production of fertilizers and, you know, other stuff. And that's what comes right out of your Kangen water. Hydroxide. They use it to manufacture soap. Gross. You see how you can do that for anything? Also, the fact that she's mentioned off those ingredients and said nothing about the fact that, like, the second ingredient in it is sugar is a little concerning to me. Phosphoric acid's not a big deal. They put it in soda to make it more tart.
I don't know about y'all, but I do not want anything in my water that is also in a fertilizer, detergent, or household toxic cleaning products. This is an ORP meter.
What about, do you know that you have a bunch of hydroxide ion in your Kangen water because that's how it makes the pH high? Do you know that that's also in lye? It's also in, like, the stuff, it's also in Drano. Oh my God, that's a toxic cleaning product. Do you know that hydroxide is also in Drano? It's also in, bleach. But yet you apparently say that that is going to help us. That's interesting. That's a double standard, huh?
That measures the antioxidants in a liquid, and
here we go again. Maybe the reason you're so stupid is because of all the Drano that you're drinking, because Drano contains hydroxide and Kangen water also contains hydroxide.
If you need further explanation, go watch one of my previous videos.
Or, go read a book.
Positive 317, a little hard to read because it's backwards, but that's awful. Anything in the positives, really, really bad for you, causing aging, sickness, inflammation. This is my water measuring at a negative, almost 800, negative 770 something. Not to mention, it is crazy.
Well, yeah, it has phosphoric acid in it. Also, I would be a little bit alarmed if Coca-Cola were putting something out there that had a negative ORP in a bottle on a shelf.
Acidic. This is the color you want.
Why do I want that?
Alkaline. If you didn't know how bad this was, no.
Yeah, that stuff's bad because there's a shitload of sugar in it. That's why. Not for any other reason. And it's not vitamin water. It's sugar water. It's like half sugar. I don't want any of your Drano water. Her water contains hydroxide, which is also used in chemical hair relaxers and Drano. And she wants you to drink it. I don't know about that. I don't want to put any of that in my body, okay? Well, that certainly was very informative on the state that humanity finds itself in. So I don't have a lot of hope going forward, but that's where we are. So don't drink Kangen water, and that doesn't mean you have antioxidants. And furthermore, that doesn't matter because you don't need them, okay? I've been Mac. Peace out. Bye!